Good afternoon and welcome back to the Guy Dawson Show. As always, thank you so much for continuing to watch. So right now we're actually going to interview the infamous Guy Dawson.
Infamous. Now I'm infamous. Don't they usually have a poster on the post office?
Oh, you're wanted. You are wanted.
Oh, yeah.
You're wanted for many reasons all over Las Vegas, the nation, the world.
Yeah.
People want a piece of you, Guy Dawson.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Well, thank you for interviewing me, Corintha.
Absolutely. So before we jump into this interview, I just want to remind the viewers at home about how they can watch the Guy Dawson Show. Of course, you can always watch live on WCOBM.com, the Las Vegas channel. You can watch every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then we actually do a really good job of archiving the show also. So check us out on YouTube and make sure to subscribe there. And if you would like to, you could even binge watch.
Binge watch the Guy Dawson.
Yes. Get your popcorn. Forget Netflix.
Yeah, boy, we've had some really interesting interviews through the years. When you go back and I watch some of the shows that we did back in 2015 or 14, it's just... I really have had a blessed life. I mean, the experiences of those shows. Yeah, go back and there's some great interviews out there.
Oh, for sure. And that actually kind of is a really good segue into what we're going to talk about now. And that is the power of broadcasting, because it truly is a powerful tool. And let's talk to the viewers at home about what are the different ways that they can see or watch or hear Guy Dawson.
Well, they can, of course, watch our show, which comes on every Thursday at 2 p.m., or as Corintha was telling you, we're archived on a lot of different platforms. You could also listen to my radio show. It's called PR Connections, the Business Edition, and that airs every Tuesday at 9 a.m. on KDWN 720 a.m. or KDWN.com. And I have another radio show. It's the original PR Connection show, and that airs every Wednesday from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and that's on WBKEVegasRadio.com. So stay pretty busy with broadcasts all week.
Guy, you are like the master broadcaster. I remember when I was thinking about getting into broadcast, and I'm like, who can I talk to about broadcast experience? Guy!
Yeah, right. Wasn't that at a TLI or something that we first started talking about this?
Yes, we did. And that
Toastmasters Leadership Institute.
Mm-hmm. And that was a really good workshop that you did, by the way. Very good presentation about PR and marketing. But, really, it really made me think. It took me a while. If you've ever watched the show previously, then you know a little bit of my journey and my story. It took me a while to get in touch with Guy and say, okay, now I'm ready. I'm ready to be involved.
Oh, yeah, but I always knew you'd come around.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad that I did. I've learned so much. And there's a lot that goes into broadcasting that folks have no idea about. I think people think oh, I can just pick up my own show and it's going to be easy. But can you talk a little bit about the struggle behind how this happens?
Yes. Well, it's... Corintha, we come in here and we laugh and we have a lot of fun, but you're learning about the back end of a show. About 95% of the work is the things that we do that are not in the studio. We're only in the studio for these 2 segments every week. All the things that go into getting us here takes many, many more hours than the little bit of time that we are actually in the studio. I mean, there's a lot of planning, preparation, booking guests, really the marketing aspect, the public relations aspect, and it's just an ongoing process. Luckily, we have social media.
Oh, yes.
That's really allowed us to be able to do distribution of information on a much higher level than when I first got in broadcasting, although there was Facebook and Twitter and those things were around when I started my radio show in 2011. Social media was on the rise then, nothing to the extent that it is now. And but yes, it's what do they say? What's the phrase they talk about? You don't know the story. You see the glory, but you don't know the story.
That's the story of broadcasting right there.
Yeah.
It's so true. So if you have to go through all of this struggle, why is it worth it? Why is it worth it for people who want to get involved in broadcasting? Explain to me what the power or the draw is, the attraction for what's so powerful about broadcasting?
I mean, it's just stories. You and I talk about it all the time. People love stories, and that's why some of the wealthiest people in the world are media moguls. When you look at the Ted Turners and Oprah Winfrey's and all kinds of, our president Donald Trump is a media mogul. When you look at many of the most powerful, Rupert Murdoch, many of the most powerful people in the world have attached themselves to media, and it's all based on a story. Every TV show you watch, article you read, blog posts you see, posts on Facebook Live, whatever. It's all based on a story, and human beings love to hear stories about other people's lives. And because I think people will always be that way, there's power in media. Whenever you can position yourself to be able to present people's stories, there's always an audience out there that appreciates that. One of the great things about social media and the world that we live in now is that it's much different than in the past. We were much more limited in your ability to be able to reach an audience. All you had were the channels. I mean, I've lived long enough to where there wasn't even cable, but you had that. You only had 13 channels, and maybe you had UHF, and then you had cable that came around in the early 80s. Which really picked it up, so you had more. But still, the average person never could really have access to the amount of people that we have now. A network like this, where it's just driven by social media, we have fans of this show and of this network all over the world, based on the new technology. New media is what this is called, and so that's the power. Is that people, they go on and they watch these shows, Corintha. They do. We talk about, you can binge watch the Guy Dawson show. People tell me about it. They go, oh, I just sat there and I watched one interview and I watched another interview. And for us to be able to do that, for me, that's a dream come true. I mean, just to be able to, I love to interview people. I know you love to do that too. And I just love to hear their stories. I just love it.
Absolutely. I think the power of storytelling is truly something that, there's something to that. There's a lot to that. I think that, it's something that I actually heard about yesterday in a presentation I was at, and a book author, she was talking about how, the power of storytelling and especially personal stories. Stories that have happened to you as an individual, and and if other people can relate to them, if you can tap into the universal way that other people can relate to what you went through, then your story's gold. You've hit treasure, literally. And we were talking about that in the last interview, even with Beth Boggin. So that was absolutely wonderful. But one of the things I did want to talk to you about is, because I don't think enough people know about this, but the different platforms that can you talk about the differences between radio and television, and can you talk about the differences in your radio show versus what you do here on the Guy Dawson show? Because I don't think enough people know about that.
Right. There is a big difference. I mean, it's all broadcasting. Again, it's always about a story. Whenever I get in front of this microphone, it doesn't matter what studio I'm sitting in, there's always some story that's being told. That's the only reason why people want to listen or care about me being there. And so the radio, again, that's how I got my start in broadcasting. Back in 2011, I created the company created PR Connections, and that started out just as a platform to promote my PR clients for the most part. And I have a good friend named Bruce Garrett, he's actually one of the franchise owners at WCOBM. He's my broadcasting mentor, and he introduced me to radio in 2011. He really took me under his wing and nurtured me and showed me why this was a powerful medium, why just having an hour of a show once a week on the radio could set me apart from other people in my industry. As a PR and marketing person, there's some huge firms out here in Vegas that represent these big properties, and I was, just a young guy, didn't go to school here, didn't have a lot of connections in Vegas, and I was trying to figure out a way that I could distinguish my business from the other businesses in town. And I learned that by hosting a talk radio show, it gave me an ability to present people in a way that the other firms couldn't, along with, of course, when you're a PR person, you book people on TV and radio as well. But being able to bring my clients onto a platform in an environment that's PR related to present them and to shine them in the best light was the reason why I just kept going with radio. And so the radio it's different than TV because radio is imaginative. You can't see the person. You can only speculate about how they look, their expressions. So a lot of things are going on. We're like here when we do TV, we have to always be worried that we don't scratch our nose or we don't. You're all watching as we're doing this. When you're on the radio, you're not worried about things like that. You can, if you have to scratch your nose, if you have to do something, and
because I was going through that in the last segment, and in my mind I'm thinking, don't sneeze,
right.
Don't sneeze, don't sneeze, there. And you have to hold it inside until the very end. So
see, you are becoming a true journalist because you know how to hold a sneeze or a nose scratch.
You have to.
So radio's different. The thing I like about radio is the imaginative capacity of it, in that you really have to imagine the story more. Where with us, you can see us, we're talking, you know what we look like, our expressions, we can't hide anything. Over there, it's imaginative. And so I mean, that's my first love, is radio. I was given the opportunity to do the online streaming show back in 2014. I walked into the studio for another interview one day, and I said, wow, this is the future. I could just see it back then, and so it's a much different way. I think that this show is really driven through the social media aspect. With the radio shows that I do have the online show, which is much more driven through social media. But when it's AM radio, there's still people out there that turn on the radio. That's how my mother listens to to the show, and people tell me all the time in their cars they turn it on. There are actually people out there who still listen to the radio. There's an audience out there of diehard radio listeners. They just love talk radio. And they become followers of your show. They reach out to you and let you know how much they appreciate or do not appreciate. I've had some phone calls about people who did not appreciate my show.
Wow. And then I did want to, we're going to talk about that because that sounds really interesting. But I did want to ask you.
Not everybody loves you out there, Corintha.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Well, I don't know. I think everyone loves me. I'm just kidding.
I love you, Corintha.
Aw, thank you. See, that's all I need. So one thing I did want to kind of let viewers know about is the fact that even if you don't have an AM receiver in your car, you can download an AM radio app onto your iPhone, onto your smartphone, and you can still tune in to the Guy Dawson Show that way. And then the other thing I was going to say was I heard a little rumor. A birdie told me that do you have archives of certain shows? So if you really love watching the Guy Dawson Show and you just can't get enough and you're like, I need more Guy Dawson in my life.
Oh, yeah.
You never know, Guy. You never know. There might be some, they don't have any life whatsoever.
Yeah, you hear you don't really realize the impact sometimes. Yes. We come in here, Corintha, every week. We do these shows, and when I'm sitting behind the computer and it's late at night and I'm cranking out marketing or I'm creating flow sheets and things like that and I want to sleep, and you really don't realize the impact that you have on people presenting these shows and getting them out, and how they can relate to the stories that you talk about, and how much they enjoy what it is that you have to say. People do. They sit over there. Yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and really, yes. There are people that literally sit and they watch these shows, all the WCOBM shows. Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
I was also going to say there's YouTubes of the radio shows too, right?
Yeah, you can also subscribe to the PR Connections radio channel, and you can listen to years worth of, even beyond this. I mean, you've got radio shows that I did back in 2012 or 11, and I listen to things like that, and I think, boy, I was not that good of a of a broadcaster back then. I mean, I was passionate and I was enthusiastic. That's just naturally how I am.
Yes.
But really knowing how to present people, and it's something that, like you were saying in the earlier in the interview, it's learned. It's not something that you just know how to do. Just because you have a personality maybe that's energetic, that's not enough. There's ways to ask people questions, to wait for their responses, a connection that you make with the people who you're talking to, and they know it. They know when you're someone who is truly concerned about hearing about what their story is all about. I was talking to a lady over the weekend. Her name is Amy Jo Greer. And Amy Jo is another one of my mentors in broadcasting, and she's a wonderful woman. She had a show here in Vegas called Amy Jo on the Go, and the Amy Jo Greer show. Years ago, even before I got in broadcasting, but I was considering it kind of at that time, and she says, see, Guy, the way that you're successful as a broadcaster and as an interviewer is you have to be the kind of person that fits people like a nice old shoe. And people, you're just a nice old shoe that they can put on, and they sit next to you and they feel really comfortable. Like when you put on that, I have a pair of Nikes that are 15 years old that I'm still wearing. Do you have any like that?
Oh, I do.
Any shoes like that?
Of course
like
I
a good
do.
old shoe?
Yes.
And I can so relate to what I just saw her over the weekend. I was at the Foodie Fest out in Henderson, and I ran into her, and I really thanked her for all that she taught me. And she's got another show now. It's on cable somewhere, but yeah, these mentors they're so important, and you and I working together, it's just really me just giving back what was so freely given to me by others.
Well, I certainly appreciate it a lot. I do want to, I hate to bring any kind of negativity to this, such a positive vibe that we have going on right now in this interview, but if you could tell me what, like, a critique or something that somebody said on a show or a particular phone caller, and you're just thinking to yourself, this is so ridiculous. And how do you deal with it? How do you deal with the haters?
Yeah, I've had some, that's just how it is. I mean, when you expose yourself, when you're on radio and the world is out there, they turn on the radio, they go on the internet, you can go to any internet, all shows are streamed now, like Corintha was saying. And when you're exposed, there's a lot of different kind of people in the world. There was this one guy, it wasn't a call-in on a show, but he called my number. Because I give my number out, because I'm in business and I want people to call me. So he called me up, he listened to one of my radio shows, and for about 5 minutes, this guy just railed on my show. On my radio show. You're horrible, your station sucks, your topics are awful. Whoever told you could be a broadcaster?
Oh my goodness.
That's what he did a couple of years ago. But what I had been taught from other people, mentors that I had in the industry, is that's when you know you've arrived. When the haters start,
talked about that.
when there's haters, well, whatever arrived means. I mean, you never really arrive. I don't mean I've arrived. It's just I'm on the path.
Yeah.
And I see that in any field. Yeah, that's when you know you're really doing well, is when you start getting haterade. That was 5 minutes of haterade, and there was a good friend of mine named Andrew Cartwright. He owns a car dealership here in town, Cartwright Motors, and I was telling him about the experience, and he said, yeah, when people do stuff like that, guys, they want to be you. They wish that they could do. He talked about everything, but they want to be you. There's a lot of people out there, and I'm all about anyone can do this. There's just a level of commitment and sacrifice that you have to be willing to make to do it. I believe anyone can do anything. Will you be a person who's willing to make the sacrifice to be a broadcaster, to deal with all the parts of it, the show, the financial aspect, and it's I've seen hundreds of shows come and go, and usually the reason why they come and go is you have to have an incredible commitment just like any business or anything that you're doing that most people aren't doing. You have a level of commitment to that they don't have. That's the only difference. It's usually not talent or anything other than your commitment to whatever it is that you want to contribute to society and to make the world a better place. And for me, broadcasting is a big part of that.
That is a wonderful place to sort of end the interview. So I want to thank you so much, Guy, for letting me interview you about the power of broadcasting. And if you would like to feel that power of broadcasting for yourself and represent yourself or your business, please contact Guy at classycommunications.net. Is that right?
That's right.
Yep. And his phone number,
702-845-6129. Even if you're
yes.
Even if you're a hater, call me anyway.
I love it. It means we're successful and you don't like it. Well, I love it, and I'm really happy to be here, and thank you so much for watching the Guy Dawson Show. Every Thursday you can catch us on WCOBM.com, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much for watching.
Have a great week.